What would it mean if we all lived our best lives? Not just as individuals, but organizations, communities. If we could live our best life, I think it would be a combination of living a life that's personally meaningful, achieving our goals, achieving our dreams, but also making the world a better place, addressing inequalities. And so today I want to talk to you about being well, doing well, and take you through a few strategies that I think can help us think about how to move toward our best life. So I want to begin with what matters most, which is our values, the things we value, the deepest desires of our hearts. That's what values are. And the thing about values is that a lot of times they remain sort of assumed, implicit, and we don't take time to investigate or really look and see, do they apply in these new circumstances, in this new environment in which I'm living? So for me, I had an intense period of reflection back in 1997. So I was going through a tough time, divorce, and I took all my ideas, my attitudes, my values, my beliefs, and I really tried to put them through the test. So I got to researching and thinking about the Holocaust, the Middle Passage, Native American genocide, Vietnam War, things that had touched me growing up. And through that exploration, a lot of things dropped off. A lot of my ideas couldn't stand the darkness test. But one thing did stand out to me, and that was the individual instances of human kindness, of compassion, and love. But I didn't have to look too far to find these kinds of tragic difficulties, the reality of human suffering that is a part of our world. Because where I lived in Northern California, there was 13 distinct Native American tribes with their unique language and cultures, and the Wiyot tribe, which was the tribe that was closest to the population center of Eureka. And in the 1860s, they'd experienced a tragic massacre. Every year they would have this world renewal ceremony, and the men went out on a hunt, and in the night, the settlers came out and wiped out and massacred the women and children. Well, it was my good fortune to meet members of the Wiyot tribe back at that time, and especially Cheryl Seidner, who was the tribal leader of the Wiyot. And Cheryl was this amazing woman because she put up with so much ignorance around her. She was a true shepherd to her people, all the difficulties that we know can be endemic in Native American reservations. And she was involved, and what always stood out to me was her smile, her amazing smile. Regardless of the hardships that she was carrying, she had this tremendous smile. And her project at the time was the Wiyot Sacred Sites Project. So the Wiyot were trying to get back their original ancestral homeland, Indian Island. And so they had this Sacred Sites Project. And you'll note that there's no mouth on the woman. And so I want to give you a chance to hear Cheryl herself.
As part of the campaign for love and forgiveness, Keat TV visited Cheryl Seidner, tribal chairwoman of the Wiyot tribe. Indian Island is the center of the Wiyot world and a sacred place. The brutal 1860 massacre of Indian Island's inhabitants and visitors abruptly ended centuries of ceremonial dancing and celebration. Today, the Wiyot tribe seeks to reestablish the cultural connection to the island by hosting the World Renewal Ceremony on its original location.
In Wiyot, there is no word for love. Not like we hear people talk of love today. Love is caring for people that you love, that you watch over, take care of, your children, your grandparents, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, the people in the community that you go and split wood for and you make kindling for. You go and bring them salmon berries, you bring them salmon, you bring them eel. Love is many things, and it's not a feeling, but it's a feeling of caring that they don't just go away, that they're there. And having these opportunities to show each other kindness is love. And listening to someone who is upset and hurt or angry or just want to talk is love. So many things, though we may not have a word for love in the Wiyot language, it's our actions.
So for me, what Cheryl expressed about compassionate action really was the core value that remained, that could stand through sort of the difficulties. What I looked at, and I looked out and I saw this darkness, but I saw this light. And to me, love was what made life worth living. And so at that time, I made a career choice. I'd been in business for 15 years, and I decided to go back to school to become a teacher. And so this meant finishing my undergrad, which meant I was a non-traditional student, which means I was the oldest person in most of my classes. And so I did a degree in speech, and I wanted to, I wanted to become a great teacher, so I was going to develop, and I needed to get a master's degree in English. I was learning to teach writing, and then I'm going to go get a PhD in education, and I'm pushing, I'm developing. But early on, at the very beginning of this journey, I started sitting in on the classes of teachers. And I was so blown away by what they did. And I saw teachers succeeding in a variety of different ways, some with humor, some with music, some with, art. But here, I realized that each individual was going to succeed in their own way. And so we go from clarifying values to talking about strengths. So what are your strengths? How do we cultivate our strengths? For me, I think my strength was my love of learning. And that's what I brought into the classroom, really, was a love of learning. And the question for me, after watching the teachers, was not just how do I become a teacher, but how do I become a great teacher? And so this brought me deep into the world of education. And I met so many amazing people, students, researchers, educators from around the world, deepening my knowledge, my love, and helping me on this journey. So how do we discover our strengths? So there's lots of clues to thinking about your strengths. What do you yearn for? What comes easily to you? Where do you experience timelessness and flow? Where do you see glimpses of real excellence in your life? And so for me, I did see some of these things in relation to teaching. And so this journey brought me to cultivating my strengths and investing in those strengths, going from a talent, serious investment, until I could step up and bring it to a class. So here I was, I'd made this shift, I'm at the bottom of a learning journey, I'm going to become a teacher. And what's so interesting to me now, in retrospect, is how there's no way in the world I could have seen at the beginning where I was going to end up at the end. So in the beginning, I was going to be a K-12 public school teacher. Well, here I am now, I'm teaching college. And the focus isn't just critical thinking and reading and literature, but the focus is writing. And so now I'm developing and I'm going further. But then in my PhD, it's not just the teaching of writing, but it's learning. It's how people learn. And it's not just teaching. I always say, I can stand up in front of a room and teach for an hour and no one learn a thing. But understanding that, learning revolves around the minds of learners. And that my job as a teacher really is to facilitate that learning. So all this deep work is happening, and I continue to grow and to transform, and my knowledge base is getting richer and deeper and stronger. So I finished my PhD, and I come to George Mason University, and the first week I'm here, 2008, two remarkable things happened to me. One, I got to ask then Senator Obama a question at a town hall rally. So I asked him a question about education, of course, and he gave some stump speech answer, which was fine. I felt honored that I got to ask him the question. But the second thing that happened was I got introduced to Bill Drayton and the world of Ashoka. And I really want to share this with you. If you don't know Ashoka, I encourage you to look them up. Bill Drayton is a man who had a vision of helping people who had world-changing ideas and providing them with financial support so they could bring them to scale. And those people are Ashoka Fellows, and there's now about 3,000 of them around the world. And Bill had this idea, if we can just find the people that are making significant and radical change and help them, we can see this world move forward. Well, Ashoka went from direct services to networking those groups of change leaders together, and then ultimately working for an everyone a change maker world. So this is me, first week in DC at George Mason, Mr. PhD, Mr. Education, Mr. Writing, all of the teaching, and now I've got this whole brand new learning curve I'm on. Change making, change makers, social entrepreneurship, but it spoke to my core value, helping people reach their potential in life. And so I begin to bring this work to my students. Yes, thinking about the global urgent challenges that we heard from some of our speakers today, and inviting them to research those problems and research the people who are doing something about those problems and coming up with arguments about who's making the best solution to these global challenges. And so this became a big part of what I was doing. So not only was I teaching writing and critical thinking, but now I'm teaching change making, all consistent with my values and connected to my strengths. So I started out with this dream of being a teacher, imagining myself as a high school teacher. Now here I am, 10 years later, and I'm teaching teachers. I'm working with teachers now. I'm working with students directly. And so this whole profile has changed, and the content has changed, and I never could have known from where I started that journey. And I wonder about that for you as you embark on your learning journeys, where they will take you. And the thing I want to encourage you with is to say, you don't know. You don't know. You got to climb to that one mountain to get to the one that's beyond it, to see what's really there. And you'll never know until you climb. And for me, as was also mentioned earlier, it's difficult to express the numbers of people who have supported and helped, and the experiences, the relationships, and the ideas were the things that were transformative to me. Education is definitely not about sitting in classes and listening to lectures. It's about meeting people, experiencing new ideas, and opening ourselves up to new experiences. So here I am, running, trying to keep up with my friends at Ashoka, thinking about change and change leadership and how can we bring social change into the institution of higher education, because we are poised so well for this work. The research we do to create knowledge, all aimed at solving these urgent challenges that we face. The teaching that we do, developing capacities in people, all about helping them be change makers in the world. So here I am, first year composition class, and I have a student, we'll call her M. M is kind of a flaky student. She's late to class. She misses lots of class, and she has these crazy excuses for missing class. But see, I view my role as an educator as being somebody, I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you. I'm not here to be an obstacle to you. Like, there's enough obstacles in life. I don't have to be one for you. So I remember even one of the emails that she wrote was basically, because you had to have a C in the class or you get dropped from the class. She says, I really don't want to take this class over again. I said, I can't make any promises. Send me your stuff. So she misses the final presentations in class, but she does send me her PowerPoint presentation, and she does send me her final paper. 3 years later, this slide here is the opening slide of her presentation. It was a presentation on victims of childhood sexual abuse. And she sends me this letter 3 years later, and it says, "Dear Mr. Rogers, you might not remember me, but I was your student in 2011. This is 3 years later. She sent me the letter. She said, I was your Starbucks barista and your student. And I want to thank you for assigning me a 10-page paper that would serve as the foundation for my future undergraduate studies in psychology. I used that paper and that exploration of childhood sexual abuse in all of my research. And today, I'm starting my first day on the job at the major city in America, Child Advocacy Center. And she says, I must say your assignment of a 10-page paper back in 2011 changed what I would end up doing when I received my bachelor's from GMU. I had to be a part of stopping the silence around victims' abuse. In May, I graduated. I moved. Tomorrow, I begin as case manager, a place I don't imagine I would have ever found myself had I not realized the scope of the problem. So here I am, this is what I do, this is why I do it, is to encourage people you're not just thinking about a career, you're thinking about aligning your values with your strengths and giving yourself permission to solve a really big problem in the world. And man, we need it. We really need it. But the real power of this story is not so much to me this individual instance. It's the example to say this. If each one of us can go out and be that change maker, be that change leader. I went up that learning curve and I was able to encourage her. Now she's writing back, encouraging me and going out and changing the world even more. And it's not just one ripple in the pond. It's multiple ripples and multiple waves that together can bring together this force that can wash away and really make serious and lasting change in the world. Imagine what we could do together if we focus on making change. Thank you.